Hey, everybody. Stu Smith here going live. I hope you are doing well this Monday morning and already got after it today. Let's crush this week, eh? So, what I'm looking for here, is my article I wrote yesterday. It's up on StuSmithFitness.com. That's what we're going to talk about while you guys congregate. But the title of this one is The Most Common Training Mistakes Made by Former Athletes Preparing for Spec Ops. And here's the biggest one: most athletes are pretty short sighted with their training. What I mean by that is they tend to think, all right, I got football season coming up in the fall. It is now June, and I'm going to prepare the next 2.5 months for that football season. So 10 weeks, and they're getting ready to go do their training, right? Or their event. What tends to happen is if you take that mindset into the next layer where you're finished playing sports, and let's say you've been doing that for 2 to 3 sports every year, one sport in college, and you're at a good athletic level, but depending on the sport, you've probably created a lot of strengths with some equal and opposite weaknesses that are underdeveloped. And you can't take that short sighted mindset going into any type of spec ops training, because it has likely taken you years to develop those strengths. And now you're going to apply a short sighted mindset to your weaknesses in a 6 to 12 week plan. Now, don't get me wrong, you can definitely improve a weakness in a 6 to 12 week plan, but it may not be enough depending on what that weakness is. It could be a calisthenics weakness, a muscle stamina weakness. It could be strength weakness. If you're an endurance athlete, you may not know how to swim yet, right? If you don't know how to do those things, you need to really think about I hate to say it, the amount of your timeline, because your timeline could be way off. And if you're talking to a recruiter already and you're in the delayed entry program, you're not on your timeline anymore. You're on the military's timeline. And you have a ship date that you now have to be at your best in that timeline. Instead of, if you just show up ready to go, it doesn't matter what timeline you're on. You can just continue to progress and meet all the standards that you need to meet, not only to get to the training, but get through the training. I can't tell you how many people I see each week in emails and DMs about, hey, I'm into the delayed entry program and I need to learn how to swim to pass the PST. You're really way behind the power curve, because if you're into the delayed entry program, you should be focusing on getting through the training, not getting accepted to the training. All of this stuff should have happened long before you talked to the recruiter. Um, Chances are, unless you have a very long delayed entry program, like some high school kids will go talk to a recruiter the summer before their senior year, and they don't ship out until June after they graduate high school. Chances are you might do pretty well, especially if you're coming off of a athletic background and you have some strengths already well developed, and you just have to fine tune some of those weaknesses, maintain your strengths. You could do it in that amount of time. But where people really screw this up is they take that short-sighted mindset to their spec ops training and think they're going to be spec ops ready in, just a few months. So there's several others. That's just one of them. A short-sighted mindset, ignoring weaknesses. That's a big one. Can't tell you how many people do that. They just, oh yeah, treading. That's easy. I won't even worry about treading. And then they realize treading is also drowning if you're not good at it. Oh, here's another one. And you know what? I got this one this week. I could not believe it. I thought maybe this was kind of old news because it used to be you could go to the recruiter, you wouldn't take any PSTs. Your first PST you'd take it was at boot camp. And then if you passed the PST, you could go to buds right after. You can't do that anymore. And boot camp never got you in shape for what you were trying to do. I think recently I was asked that question, like, hey, if I go to boot camp, will that prepare me for spec ops training afterwards? Will they be able to teach me swimming while I'm at boot camp? And the answer is no and no. You might learn a little bit of swimming, especially if you're going Navy or Coast Guard, but this is survival swimming. They're not going to teach you the CSS and how to crush PSTs. They're not even going to give you the PST at boot camp anymore. They used to, but that's all they were doing. They were just testing you. They weren't really training you. They did have some early morning workouts that were beneficial to the spec ops guys, but those don't exist anymore. It didn't, in hindsight, they didn't really reduce attrition rates. So the Navy said, let's see what happens when we don't do this and just have a longer prep over on the Coronado side whenever they get out there. So there's some changes going on in the preparation world for sure. I think probably the biggest mistake out of all these is that people just prepare to get to the training and they do nothing else to prepare to get through the training. A lot of people get and accomplish the task of getting to spec ops training, but they just don't finish it. And that's a shame because it's not easy getting accepted to it, and it's not gutless, at all. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to even try. But it sucks that, over 50 to 75% of the people who show up, to various spec ops training programs just don't make it past the first couple of weeks. So it's preparation is the biggest problem. And that's what I'm here for. Because I tell you, not much in the military prepares you for those types of jobs. Unfortunately, there's not even on the lower end, people who just need to lose a little weight, to meet the height weight standards. There's nothing, in the military that really helps you with that. There used to be, back in I think it was the 70s, there used to be kind of like, I hate to say the term, but it was kind of like a fat camp where they would send overweight Marine candidates to a place and they would work them out. Recruiters still do that pretty well in the Marine Corps, get them prepared for Marine Corps training. Because I tell you, there's a big difference in the boot camp basic training uh, intensities amongst the services, because you got Navy and Air Force, not so hard. I would even say Air Force is probably harder than the Navy's from what I have seen that they endure. Army and Marine Corps, different standards, different story. They run, they ruck, they PT, they get after it. Anytime you're rucking a lot, you're putting on some serious muscle and getting stronger, getting faster. Both of those units have 2 mile timed runs or a 3 mile timed run versus the mile and a half. Not that that makes that big a difference, but it does make a big difference in the amount of time it takes to train do well on those longer runs. So you get a candidate that's a little more physically adept to the training that they're about to do. So, all right, folks. So that's my 10-minute little rant on preparing or not preparing. But it's up to you. You got to do it if you're going to see the results you want. And that goes for anything. It is, you could take that advice and apply it to any goal that you set. If you're not preparing, chances are you're not going to see the end of it. All right. So, first question, how important is freestyle stroke and buds and other pipelines? I've been swimming some freestyle, but I've been placing higher emphasis on the CSS. I mean, put it this way, there's no freestyle test at buds. Um, every test you take will be an underwater recovery stroke, CSS. Now, we use freestyle as a way to get in swimming shape quickly, but um, it is not important at all as far as any testing events, any graduation standards. You may use it as part of a workout. In fact, they do the 50-50 over at Buds. Um, so you'll do a 50-meter free followed by a 50-meter CSS. Do that 10, 15 times. You got yourself a pretty good workout that's going to help you crush the CSS. Other pipelines, yeah, you can swim freestyle in rescue swimmer. You can swim freestyle in PJ training, but those are the only places that actually incorporate freestyle as part of their testing. If you want to go to buds, you should be putting a higher emphasis on the CSS. And once you crush that 500-yard PST, you should put uh, all your emphasis on swimming with fins using the CSS. All right. Mikhail says, I've been allowed access to train on Wednesdays and Sundays with a free diving club with free divers who also train Danish SOCOM. Huh. Should I try to balance drown proofing and this? Substitute it. Free diving's pretty fun. I think you might like it. You might learn some pretty helpful skills in how you do breath holding, how you equalize pressure in your sinuses, um, and general water comfortability. So I think it's a great idea, especially if the Danish SOCOM uses them as part of their training. It's never a bad idea to meet some of the folks that are there. Maybe they're former Spec Ops guys that you can, learn a few things from as well. Morning, sir. Sure, I practiced a 4-mile time run in pants and boots. Well, you're going to take it in pants and boots when you're at Buds. What do you think? You don't have to do every one of them like that, but I would probably put at least 50% of your miles in pants and boots before you join the Navy and go to Buds. At least 50%. And boots nowadays are so much different than when I was in. When I was in, they sucked. I mean, they were Vietnam era boots. In the 90s, they were 30 years old and not that great. And then the Bates came out, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is like running boots, air boots," we used to call them. And then the Nike came out with their Combat Gen 2, even better. So um, it's not as big a deal as it used to be, put it that way. So any writing you see about don't run in boots, these are different boots. These are running boots, and they're built for running. So it's a whole different animal. Speaking of timed events, is any part of the drown proofing timed? Each event is usually, I think it's 5 minutes each event. Bottom bounce for 5, float for 5, travel 100. That's not really timed. Uh, you do a front flip, back flip, and pick up your mask. Those aren't really timed. They're more accomplished, but it might take 3 to 5 minutes for the whole class to do the front flip. And then you do the back flip. Usually it's the tread and the float that gets most people. Either you're a little chubby and you can't, I'm sorry, the bob and the float. Either you're a little chunky and it's hard to sink, or you're really lean and it's hard to float. Doesn't matter. It's going to get you either way. Um, and both suck. Does it matter what day I include boxing? Not hard training, but technique, shadow boxing. Do you believe it impacts recovery? If so, should it only be an upper body day? Well, there's a lot of legs involved in boxing. I don't know. Every time I boxed and tried to walk downstairs afterwards, my legs were so wobbly. Not because I got smacked in the head, but just because you do use your legs a lot. So it doesn't really matter if it's an upper body day or lower body day. My recommendation would be I would probably box first, then go do your lifts or calisthenics versus being all tight, from lifting and doing calisthenics and then trying to throw your punches. We've had guys that were, Golden Glove boxers that still boxed after workouts, and it didn't matter what day it was for them. They just added it in there. My advice for you, especially if you're really close to training, is avoid sparring where you're going to get hit, because next thing you know, you break your nose, you get knocked out, you bunk your head, you got a concussion, and it delays any part of your training, in the future, and could even disqualify you depending on the injury. So I always tell people, 6 months out from any selection that you have, joining the military, going through MEPS, all that stuff, you probably need to lay off the impact sports, contact sports, um, even riding bicycles on the road, because those guys get hit by cars all the time. You just got to be a little safer. Unfortunately, I say this because I have seen so many people get injured or, um, worse, believe it or not, um, just doing dumb stuff 6 months before they uh, 6 months before they ship, and then it delays their shipping or disqualifies them. And some have even died doing things like breath holds or riding bikes, getting hit by a car. Um, those things are very common, and you can Google it. It's people that die every year that are spec ops candidates doing those type of things on their own, preparing. What's your opinion on pull-ups versus chin ups? Do you have to do both? I prefer chin-ups. Well, you're only going to be tested in the Navy like this, doing pull-ups. But I do chin-ups all the time. I did pull-ups today and mixed in probably at least 25% of my pull-ups were chin-ups. So mix it up, change the grips, go wide, go close, go front, go back, go mixed, even. So your mobility chains have changed my treading with no hands like crazy. Yes, yes, it works. In fact, if you don't believe me, I want you to read this article. Thanks for sharing this one, because treading is, for most people, a mobility issue. Um, So Mikhail says hip mobility prior to this was almost non-existent. Really seeing good progress with flexibility. Well, let me tell you, when I first created Mobility Day, I really thought it was just for me because I'm getting older. I needed it. I was running a lot. My hips hurt, ankles, knees, just lower back. Everything was just not feeling good. And I started doing this on the day everybody else went for a long run. Then there were a couple of days when people couldn't run because their shins hurt or had some tendonitis, IT band flare up. So they came in and did mobility day with me. Next thing, everybody's like, "Hey, I heard about this mobility day. Let me do it." And then we actually replaced a hard workout day with a mobility day. Now we still work out 6 days a week, and the middle of the week we have this mobility day, and it has been life changing. And me selling it to the guys, instead of them going easy, I was saying, look, it's going to help your treading. And it has ever since. Everybody sees huge difference in their ability to do egg beater, even scissor kicks. um, Plus, if you've having some aches and pains and just tight hips from running and things like that, it is life changing. And for me, at my age, I created it almost 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I thought I was done running because my hips hurt so bad. Um, been running ever since. So highly recommend Mobility Day. And I just put a link into the comment section. All right. So I am not sure what one word comments mean, but John says wrestling. You know what I'm going to say back to you? Rugby. Makes sense, huh? Um, are the specific depth pools used for different tests during different phases? And if so, what's the depth used for each test? Um, yeah, drown proofing is 9 feet. Underwater swimming is in 9 to 15 feet. It doesn't really matter. The whole thing's deep. Um, Let me think. What else is under? Oh, knot tying. That's a 15 feet deep knot tie. But drown proofing's in 9. I've seen you discuss recovery and prevention of tendonitis on the outer knee, but you didn't go into detail on the topic. Do you have any published resources on this? I think I may have something in there on IT IT band flare up. I think I call it IT band flare up. Let me see here. Hmm. 7 tips for common running injuries. Let me see what I have. Yeah, check these out. This might be a good one for you. It's a military.com article. But I have gotten through IT band flare ups primarily foam rolling and stretching, not just that area, but the whole hip all the way down to the ankles. Stretching, foam rolling, before and after every run. Basically, using that as a warm up prior to running, and then doing it as a cool down after running. And I've seen it help people to a point where they don't even need to stop running. They may have to reduce some of their running, but they don't have to stop it all out if it's at the beginning of it. Now, if it's full blown, like you can't walk downstairs at all, you shouldn't be running. I do have a rule when it comes to running. If it hurts to run, stop running. And that means basically if it hurts past the warm up, stop running. Um, if it hurts to walk, don't even bother running. And if it hurts just standing around doing nothing, go see a doctor because it is pretty bad if that's the case. Let's see. Posted a whole bunch. Let's see. Last Sunday, Week ago, we had a guy in my pool training for the Danish SWAT. He got shallow water blackout underwater while training solo. He survived due to my colleague's quick reaction. Woo, man, that is so dangerous. Yeah, you don't want to be alone. You're lucky. That guy's lucky that you guys are paying attention because Jesus. Unfortunately, that happens. People do that stuff by themselves, underwater swimming by themselves, or just breath holds underwater by themselves. If you want to practice breath holds, just practice it on land with a watch. Don't do it underwater by yourself. Stu, when do you recommend getting a SOAS packet in? I know it is due in February, exact date not yet published. Also, any training advice for between SOAS Select and the course? Um, yes, it doesn't really matter when you get it in, it's just a matter of when it's done. Um, most people are doing PSTs December, January to get into their packets. But I mean, if you can get a packet in November, nothing wrong with that. Chances are, between the medical, the letters of recommendation, and all that stuff, if you were to start right now, you probably wouldn't get everything done until January anyway. So um, just get it in January, you know, new year, send it in. I will tell you this, the way sometimes the Navy works is, you send it in before Christmas. Next thing you know, they had a week off and no one's in the office and things get moved around. And next thing you know, people are looking for packages. Hopefully, these packages are all online now and it's a whole lot easier to track down versus some paperwork in a folder. But I've seen that happen. So I would say just wait till the new year and get it in. But then, yeah, your workouts before SOAS need to be pretty tough because here's what's going to happen. That PST score you just submitted, it should be better when you go to SOAS 6 months later. So don't skip doing PST training. They want to see you submit a score and maybe even improve or at least maintain those PST scores. If you do worse, that's not very good. But you know the types of drills that are going to be done. You're going to ruck. You're going to run in sand. You're going to do a PST. Um, you're going to be carrying logs and boats. So simulate a lot of those things with workouts like the Sand Baby Devil Murph. If you haven't seen that, I'll put it in the Sand Baby Devil Murph Stu Smith. You Google that, you'll see a great article on this, but I'll put the link in the comment section. This is kind of like a log PT boat carry simulator, just with a sandbag. Because you'll be doing that, um, rucking with 50 pounds in soft sand, build up to 5-10 miles of that because you're going to be on it. You're going to be rucking. Have you ever run a marathon, half marathon? Are you a fan of Tough Mudders or Spartan? I'm a much bigger fan of obstacle course races. I've done several of those. I enjoy those. I do not enjoy marathons. Half marathons are a little more tolerable. 10Ks are even better. Um, but I'm just bored out of my brain when I run a marathon. Only did one, and I said I'm never doing one again because I was just pure boredom. Now, maybe I should take it as a mental challenge and do another one. I don't know. I'm not there yet. Um, but yeah, if you put it this way, if I had a choice between a marathon or a 26-mile obstacle course race, I'd take the obstacle course race in a heartbeat just because it's, just more entertaining. Right? Does that make sense? For my brain. Maybe it's ADHD issue. I don't know. I've never been diagnosed with it, but I probably have it. I'm training for my department SWAT school. We aren't going to do any rucking during the school or tryouts. Would you recommend for me to still implement rucking for my into my training? Um, I would only implement rucking if there are other load bearing activities. Like, for instance, Bud students, they have logs and boats, but it's very hard for the individual to be practicing carrying logs around, doing log PT, and carrying a boat on their head by themselves. So, what we do a lot to prepare for that load bearing is we run with rucks on soft sand just to get used to the grind of those extra weight that you're carrying on the softer sand and regular ground too. But that's my recommendation. And if you don't have soft sand or things like that, my other recommendation is weight vest or backpack on a stair stepper. Those things are such a hard workout. In fact, I'm going to send you another workout idea um, that I actually learned from the firefighters using these stair steppers because that's what they do, carry weight upstairs. Um, and it's a really good substitute if you don't have hills or you don't have soft sand. Um, that weight vest stair stepper is a good substitute for sure. Let's see. So I usually run a mile and a half every day or other day. About 3 days ago, I did a workout in your fall winter plan after a 12-hour shift. And the workout for that day, my legs were in pain. Never had bones actually hurt from 3 miles, and it threw me off. So I had to try troubleshooting. No, if here's the problem. You either have leg pain from the muscles that are sore from squats and lunges and things like that, or you have leg pain from the impact forces of running. My advice would be to test out which one it is. Do a mobility day and stretch all the muscles. Make sure they're a little more loose now and a little less tight. Probably be a little less painful if you do that. Then um, replace all your running for a few days with just non-impact cardio. So every 10 minutes of running replace with, or I say every mile of running replace with 10 minutes of biking, for instance, and see what that does and see if it really is a bone issue, soft tissue, tendons, ligaments, or it's muscle soreness. It could be all three, but let's try to track it down and see what it actually is. All right, I've recently increased my running volume and my tendon ligaments on top of my foot are sore. Do you have any suggestions? That's a weird one. Could be impact forces, could be tight shoes that just kind of bruised it. Make sure your running volume is not out of a logical progression. That's just fancy word for saying um, 10 to 15% increase from what you did the week before. That is my guidance. Um, See if that helps. Morning, sir. Which one of your programs would you suggest for someone training for Air Force SEER? There's less emphasis on the pool for them. There may be than there used to be. Well, it's up to you. You could definitely do the Air Force Special Warfare workout program that I have and just take out the swimming. Never a bad idea to add some swimming, as is it is a good cross training cardio activity, and never bad idea to be good at swimming too, because you never know. You may have a swim workout at some point and want to be good at it. Um, But if you're really not concerned about swimming, I would probably go with the maybe Army Ranger SF or the PFT Bible. A lot less swimming in there, a lot of calisthenics, PT tests, just like your SEER IFT, pull ups, push ups, sit ups, mile and a half run. But I know the SEER guys do ruck, and do some survival stuff. So you're going to be carrying everything that you need in a backpack. So it's not a bad idea to get used to rucking a little more. And, any of my workouts, if you just want to take out the swimming and just add in biking, you'll probably be covered for run, ruck, calisthenics, some strength training mixed in there, and and all of that. So, is jump rope considering a non-impact cardio? I ask because I don't really have access to a pool. Um, it's not horrible impact forces compared to running, but it is not an impact cardio. Put it this way: if you had shin splints or a sprained ankle, jumping rope would not be kind to that injury. Um, so what is it? What is causing that? The impact forces of the jump rope is causing you pain if you have those kinds of injuries. So would it make would it cause those type of injuries is the bigger question. And I don't know. I would think if you do too much of anything, it would. But I personally would not consider it non-impact, or I would not consider it impactful. But it is not 100% non-impact, if that makes sense. Oh, here's a fun question. Why do you still get after it every day? Good question. I enjoy it. It's part of my life. It's become a habit since I was 12 years old. I've been working out before school. I work out after school, and it became a habit. And I can honestly look back throughout the years of my life and say I have not missed many workouts in what is now 40 plus years of working out. It it is just something that is so part of my day that I just can't. I wouldn't even think about stopping. I mean, it is what it is. I love it. Maybe that's why. Um, so there we go. So tomorrow I'm going to have another live Q&A, um, and it's a CSS critique show. So send some videos in if you want me to take a look at your swim, and that I'll look at your freestyle too, since we had a freestyle question. If you need some help with your freestyle, I'm not a great freestyle coach, but the good news about freestyle, just about anybody can teach you freestyle. Not many people know or understand why people even swim the CSS. So all you got to do is take a look at some of the comments on CSS posts from people that are collegiate swimmers or competitive swimmers, and you'll see basically being swimming trolls. All right. What type of clothes do you recommend practicing swimming in for buds? I'm assuming there's a cotton t-shirt and a pair of UDT shorts. No, that's it. I mean, you're gonna wear a t-shirt, you're gonna wear a life jacket, inflatable life jacket, and a pair of shorts on, and fins and mask, booties for your feet. And those are, ocean swims. You will have a wetsuit on when the water's cooler. Um, Water's always cool out there, so it's very rare that you swim without a wetsuit out there at SEAL training. But I mean, you don't need UDT shorts, and be honest with you, they look kind of weird outside of the military environment. If you're running around your hometown in UDT shorts, people are going to say, "Who's that weirdo?" But it's up to you. You can run whatever you want. The short answer is it doesn't really matter. Let me see what other questions we got here. I don't see any more questions. If I missed yours, you can always email me, stu@stewsmith.com. You can show up over at Instagram in my DMs, send me a video or ask your questions. But you can also go to stewsmithfitness.com and check out the articles over there. There's great books, ebooks. You can use Live15 coupon code, save 15% with any purchase. If you're really looking for a lot of videos on how to learn and how to swim the CSS, you got to check out the TikTok page. In fact, it's right here, TikTok at StewSmith50. Same address as my Instagram. If you don't have TikTok, that's fine. You can go to my Reels. I send most of my TikTok videos over to Reels also, so you can see those feedback I give to people who need some swimming instruction. But all right, let's see. All right, let's see what Austin has to say here. Austin says, sent a CSS critique about a month ago. Could barely do a 50 meter without gasping. Been doing the 50-50 ever since. I'm in week 2 of PST program. Was able to swim 500 nonstop for the first time last week. That's good, man. Going to try and get some video tomorrow morning for you. Yep. Send it in. I will definitely review it for you. Great job. That's good progress, man. Now imagine this. Imagine you were in the delayed entry program already, and that was you. Like you took a PST for the first time after never even swimming the CSS, not even knowing if you could pass 500 yards of swimming, and you did not finish. In fact, you did not finish the swim, and you couldn't finish everything else because they're like, "Hey, you failed." Um, who do you think they're going to take you seriously when you're going up for a job interview? So I want people to really think about when they take these fitness tests. This is a job interview to do these jobs in Spec War, and if you don't take them seriously, they're not going to take you seriously. So do yourself a favor, prepare well, and go crush that thing. And if you're having a hard time like Luke over here, crushing everything but the run, tell me this, Luke, can you pass the 1.5 miles without doing the swim and the calisthenics? So what is your 1.5 mile time fresh compared to your 1.5 mile time taking the PST? Because here's the problem. Most people run out of gas when they take the PST, and what you need to learn is some fueling strategies that work for you to get through that PST and actually have enough energy on the backside to crush the run like you normally do. In fact, there is something I call the PST clinic workout, or not a workout, it's an article where it actually helps you build that strategy. I want you to check this out. It's a great article. Fresh, it's about a 950. That's not horrible. Still not that fast. It sounds like it's a combination of you need to get in better running shape and you need to learn how to fuel and transition from all of the previous activities so you can finish that run as strong as you normally would. 950 is not bad at the end of a PST, but it could be faster. Could be much faster. So I would say your issue is a conditioning issue, probably with everything, and it's wiping you out on the back end of that PST. And if you're not sipping on some carbohydrate drinks, it's going to be even worse. Lay off any caffeine before you take a PST. It's just going to artificially elevate your heart rate, and that's not good. Um, Only get some carbs for fuel because that's what you're going to be burning during that entire PST. So sipping on something with juice or Gatorade or something that has some sugar in it, um, and carb up well before you take the PST, and that's going to help you tremendously with that back end um, glycogen and blood sugar that you need. But yeah, that's what I would do. Check out that article. It's going to explain a lot to you about the transitions as well. All right, folks. I guess that's it. I do need to run. I got stuff to do, people to coach. And for the guy who asked me still getting after it, I got after it this morning and I'm going to get after it again this afternoon. Can't help myself, Jared. Just one of those things. All right, folks, you have a good one, and I will see you tomorrow, same time, 9:30. Have a good one. See ya.